Then Nestor of Gerenia, lord of chariots, answered him, Yea, now, my child, I will tell thee the whole truth. Verily, thou guessest aright, even of thyself, how things would have fallen out, if Menelaus of the fair hair, the son of Atreus, when he came back from Troy, had found Aegisthus yet alive in the halls. Then, even in his death, would they not have heaped the pile earth over him, but dogs and fowls of the air would have devoured him as he lay on the plain, far from the town. Nor would any of the Achaean women have bewailed him. So dread was the deed he contrived. Now he sat in the leaguer there, achieving many adventures. But he, the while, in peace in the heart of Argos, in the pasture land of horses, spake ofttimes, tempting her, to the wife of Agamemnon. Verily at the first she would none of the foul deed, the fair Clytemnestra, for she had a good understanding. Moreover, there was with her a minstrel, whom the son of Atreus straitly charged as he went to Troy to have care of his wife. But when at last the doom of the gods bound her to ruin, then did Aegisthus carry the minstrel to a lonely isle, and left him there to be the prey and spoil of birds. While as for her, he led her to his house, a willing lover with a willing lady. And he burnt many thigh slices upon the holy altars of the gods, and hung up many offerings, woven work in gold, seeing that he had accomplished a great deed beyond all hope. Now we, I say, were sailing together on our way from Troy, the son of Atreus and I, as loving friends. But when we had reached holy Sunium, the headland of Athens, there Phoebus Apollo slew the pilot of Menelaus with the visitation of his gentle shafts, as he held between his hands the rudder of the running ship. Even Phrontis, son of Onator, who excelled the tribes of men in piloting a ship, whenso the storm winds were hurrying by. Thus was Menelaus holden there, though eager for the way, till he might bury his friend and pay the last rites over him. But when he in his turn, faring over the wine-dark sea in hollow ships, reached in swift course the steep mount of Malea, then it was that Zeus of the far-born voice devised a hateful plan, and shed upon them the breath of shrill winds, and great swelling waves arose like unto mountains. Okay, Nestor is continuing his tale of what happened to all the ships and people following Troy, how Agamemnon's demise came to be at the hands of Aegisthus, laying out in more detail. But I think before I go into what Nestor is saying here, it might be worth taking a bit of a step back and looking at the different players here, how they're connected to one another, so that we have a better understanding of the soap opera unfolding before us. I'm just going to run down the line here and talk a little bit about how these people are connected to one another. So we have Agamemnon. He was crucial in the battles of Troy. His wife is Clytemnestra, who is the wife that Aegisthus covets and eventually takes over. Aegisthus is a lover of Clytemnestra, enemy of Agamemnon, who has been planning, this isn't a sudden thing Aegisthus is doing. He's been planning this takeover for a long time. We'll get into that in a second. Menelaus is Agamemnon's brother, also a big part of the Troy stories. This is our first mention of Apollo, and we'll get into his part in the story in a minute. And then Orestes, which isn't called out by name here, but is Agamemnon's son, who would go on to kill Aegisthus for his treacherous deeds. Now, what is Nestor saying? How is he breaking this down? Let's go. There's two parallel stories happening here. Let's go one by one. Agamemnon and Menelaus, along with Nestor, who is telling this story, all heading home from Troy. Agamemnon and Menelaus have different trajectories here. What we can kind of glean here is that while Agamemnon and his brother Menelaus, while everyone is off in Troy fighting, Aegisthus had stayed home. And in Agamemnon's absence, starts this scheming plan to take Clytemnestra. And Agamemnon, with a little foresight, had left a minstrel behind named Phrontis. And so we start to see how Aegisthus systematically creates the opportunity to take Clytemnestra. And with a little bit of luck, as we'll see with Apollo. But Agamemnon leaves Phrontis behind as a sort of safeguard, a bodyguard, if you will, for his wife. Aegisthus is seducing Clytemnestra and recognizes the obstacles. And so Aegisthus takes Phrontis and deserts him on an island. This is becoming a theme, it seems, a favored way of getting rid of people, so that she no longer resists him. It's a little unclear here if Clytemnestra had feelings for Aegisthus, maybe felt some passion, but wanted to maintain her honor in her marriage to Agamemnon. It's not said here, but essentially once Phrontis is out of the picture, Aegisthus can start to move forward with his plans in earnest. When Agamemnon arrives on the island, Aegisthus has Agamemnon killed, leaving him to take Clytemnestra for his own. Now, Nestor is also saying the parallel story here of Menelaus, who, had he arrived home, could have intervened in this scheme at some point in order to maybe save Agamemnon, or at least prevent Aegisthus from moving forward with anything else. But with a little bit of luck on Aegisthus' side, Menelaus is waylaid because Apollo appears and kills the pilot of his ship. Without having a pilot, it makes navigation and driving your ship a little bit harder. But more than that, he's waylaid because he has to oversee the proper burial rites of this man. Apollo is a god of many things, but one of them particularly is of ritual order and sudden death. So the death at the hands of Apollo here means that Menelaus has to really do this by the book and make sure that they aren't just going through the motions, that they are devoting the sacred rites of burial for this man before they can move forward. But all of this delays Menelaus's arrival, giving Aegisthus the time to complete his plans without interference. Should also mention at the very end of that passage that in addition to Apollo, after Menelaus does all of the burial rites, Zeus comes in at the very end and sent some storms that scattered Menelaus even further. Can you imagine going to war and then facing all of this on your way home? What's the oft repeated thing about it's more dangerous on the way to and from an airport than it is flying to your destination? There's just one other thing I want to kind of wrap my head around here, which is that this is very different types of storytelling than we're used to nowadays. But Agamemnon being such a huge part of the battles of Troy, the Iliad, that your kind of coda to his story happens in a kind of like offhanded story within a story. Nestor is giving you the American Graffiti title card of what happened to Agamemnon following following the story of Troy. This is all happening essentially off screen, if you will. You would have to wait. I mean, if your audience is of the time, you would have to wait like centuries before you got the full Agamemnon story, when it appears in like Greek tragedy, Greek plays by Aeschylus and a few others. Orestia, I think, is the Agamemnon play, if I'm pronouncing that correct and remembering the correct play. So, like, there's a long period of time where you're like, well, my favorite character in season 1 of the Homeric tales doesn't appear in season 2. All we get is a little offhanded description of what happened to him. It's a little unusual for our modern sensibilities. Anyway, today was a much longer episode. I just wanted to orient you all, but mostly myself, to who all these people are in relation to one another and what is actually transpiring as Nestor explains it. So let's continue tomorrow. His monologue isn't over yet. Maybe he has some more to say about what happened to Agamemnon. And how is Telemachus going to process all of this? What is it going to mean to him? There's only one way to find out, and that's to continue with Book 3 here tomorrow. So join me here then, won't you? Odyssey is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. The show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Odyssey, written by Homer. Theme song by Neuroflow. You can support this show and other shows like it by going to patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.